Hello, this is Asa from Game On Daily and welcome to my little side channel. Because I incessantly bang on about how much I love virtual reality, quite a few people have been asking for my thoughts on Sony's PlayStation VR 2. The thing looks great and I am planning to cover it more when I get my hands on it. But for now, let's kick things off with a quick look at my personal picks from the 30-something confirmed games from the launch window. This isn't every game, it isn't even every good game, but this bunch are already easy for me to recommend because I've played them on other platforms or because what we've seen looks great, in my opinion, which is the correct opinion. Okay, let's do this. Horizon Call of the Mountain is the first game that I'm going to jump into when my headset arrives, as it's Sony's kind of de facto showcase for their new technology. Horizon Call of the Mountain plays to the most obvious strengths of virtual reality, transporting the player into a world they've hitherto only seen through the narrow window of a pathetic TV screen, and parading gigantic robotic dinosaurs all over the place to really capitalize on the sense of presence and scale that you can only get when you crane your neck and realize just how massive and imposing these things really would actually be. Horizon seems to feature very sensible, tried and tested VR mechanics, like bow and arrow shooting, and lots of climbing around the environment with your hands, which makes it nice and safe for those of us that suffer from motion sickness. And it also conveniently fits really well with the experience that you get in the Pancake Horizon games. You can even whisper inane hints and observations to yourself every few seconds if you really want to capture those Aloy vibes. Troll, sorry, I can't help myself. For VR, first impressions really do matter, and Sony can't have people putting on this headset and feeling sick within 30 seconds, so they're desperate to stick the landing with the PlayStation VR 2. Unfortunately, it does look like that approach hinders the combat in Horizon, with players locked into a circular combat radius rather than having the freedom to move and fight how you'd want to. That might hold the game back from being something I want to play for years and years to come, but it doesn't really dampen my excitement too much, as I really do think that just getting up close to the tall necks and stormbirds and such in the vibrant settings that we've seen will be genuinely breathtaking. Demeo. Where the gigantic robot dinosaurs of Horizon may steal my breath away, Demeo takes the notion of impressive scale and flips it on its head to fantastic effect. Demeo basically lets you gather around a table with friends to play a traditional tabletop RPG, but without the logistical challenges of actually meeting around a real table. It's a turn-based tactical game with cards to play, dice to roll and monsters to slay, 2 action points at a time. Take control of a D&D-like class, so Barbarian, Warlock, Rogue, Mage, Hunter or Guardian, I think that's the lot of them, and explore your way through a 3-floor dungeon that culminates in a difficult boss encounter. It is a slow-paced, methodical game that can be quite challenging. You can choose to control all 4 characters through a battle alone if you really hate other people, but Demeo is definitely best enjoyed with friends. Just make sure that you do approach it like you would an actual tabletop game. So set aside a good chunk of time, crack out the finest of snacks and beverages, and it just makes a great backdrop for conversation and banter amongst friends. So if you have a bad time, it's probably because you've got bad friends. After the Fall. If you've got that co-op hungry friend group all lined up, but they're kind of shit conversationalists, or you're just looking for a more frenetic experience, then After the Fall will be worth jumping into. The easiest way to describe this one is that it's basically Left 4 Dead 4, but in virtual reality. And when I say that it's like Left 4 Dead 4, I'm really not saying that lightly. This is almost copy and paste stuff, or at least it's close enough to the formula that I think it's pretty safe to decide if you're going to enjoy this one just from that description. Loads of cannon fodder enemies, signature special enemies punctuating the levels, safe rooms, bad AI companions ready to step in if you hate people. It really is, it's a Left 4 Dead experience, but in VR. After the Fall is a pretty well polished game with decent graphics and satisfying shooting. You start out in a kind of base lobby area, gather your team of 4 and head out through the fairly confined locations, killing zombies, gathering materials and finding blueprints that you can use to craft a nice range of weapons and modifications that you can use to go out and get more materials and better blueprints to make better weapons that you can use to go out and so on. That's it, that is the core loop of After the Fall. Play it. Pavlov. No, not the guy with the dog. Working together in social VR games is genuinely great, but sometimes don't you just have a hankering to shoot people? I mean, I really hope that you don't actually want to shoot people, obviously. I'm talking about wholesome competitive games here. Well, VR has you covered. Pavlov is a competitive mainstay on PC VR and on standalone VR, and for good reason. It's a really tight shooter with top tier weapon handling. The shooters in virtual reality are simply not the same as the likes of Call of Duty or other pancake games. There's no controller sensitivity options. You take the gun, you point it at the enemy, and you shoot. Then in Pavlov, you see if you can figure out how to reload that weapon before you get shot. There's no X or square to reload here, but at least you have a radio, so you can just pick it up and cry to your team for help. Help, I don't know how to reload. It's probably me. A big part of Pavlov's longevity in the face of a lot of competition on the PC VR side does come off the back of a strong modding community. So I guess the PlayStation VR version will need the base content to carry a heavier load, but even so, I really don't think that you'll be at all disappointed jumping headfirst into Pavlov. It's just a really high quality competitive game. Resident Evil 8-age. How brave do you think that you are? Prove it by playing Resident Evil Village in virtual reality and wearing your whitest underwear. Resident Evil 7 marked a high point for the original PlayStation VR, and I can't understate how much better 8-age is going to be. Obviously it takes a huge step up in visual fidelity, but more important than that is Capcom appear to be going all out on the VR interactions, letting you juggle your gun and physically interact with the environment and its grisly inhabitants. If you already own 8-age on the console, then the VR mode, which is the entire game just to be clear, is a free update. So yeah, I dare you to play it. Unless you're one of those horny Lady Dimitrescu stans, like I know you don't need an excuse. And I don't need to know what you're getting up to. Before we carry on with the horror, a really quick word from our sponsor, Game On Daily. The name might be familiar. If it isn't familiar, please make it familiar. It's a gaming news aggregation platform that we hope lets you find your new favourite content creators and gives those creators a new avenue to get eyes on their work. We've got massive plans for it, but we do need a little love to get this thing moving, so please check it out. Okay, back to the video. Switchback VR, The Dark Pictures. The makers of Until Dawn, Rush of Blood are back with another weird horror coaster thing. But wait, it actually looks really good. This one is based on their Dark Pictures anthology series of the games, which, to be honest, it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. I haven't actually played any of those. This game made the list because of a simple Twitter post from the developers that introduced mannequins. Freaky mannequins that move when you blink. They're using the eye tracking cameras in the PlayStation VR 2 headset to go full weeping angel, setting a precedent that I'm sure will become a horrible trope in PlayStation VR horror games going forwards. This is the kind of innovation that I am here for, so Switchback VR gets a nod from me, but I'm going to need to endure some serious, arduous eyelid stamina training. Going to start now, not going to blink for the rest of this video. No, voice is gone. Gran Turismo 7. Another big one from Sony's first party. The entirety of Gran Turismo 7 is playable in VR. That's all the tracks, all the cars, all the modes, all the competitions, and in all conditions. Except for split screen. Why Sony felt the need to clarify that split screen is not supported, I do not know. But they really did spell it out more than once, so maybe it's important. Maybe there are people out there that would try to fit two people into one headset. Please don't do that. Ah, bollocks, I blinked. I wasn't actually a massive fan of Gran Turismo 7's pancake release. I found the presentation to be fairly pretentious and sterile, and the game generally underwhelming. But I am not exaggerating when I say that virtual reality is entirely transformative for racing games, and Gran Turismo 7 in VR will provide near endless good times for any fans of driving games. PSVR 2 is already an expensive proposition, but if you can stretch to a racing seat and a steering wheel, then you'll have a setup that you could extract thousands of hours from, if that's your speed. Kayak VR Mirage. Canoeing in VR is really intuitive because it's simply very true to life. You sit down and traverse the waters just as you would in a real canoe kayak. All that's missing is the weight of the oar and the resistance as you pull it through the water, but that's something that you quickly adjust to. Mirage presents itself as a relaxing, serene experience, paddling around gorgeous locations, just taking in the atmosphere while your stress washes away and your shoulders get strong. But I don't like to relax. Sorry, I don't like to relax. So yeah. Fortunately for me, Mirage also offers time trials and races. So I'm going to speed till my arms fall off, then play something else. Something that doesn't require much energy or arms. Maybe No Man's Sky. The PlayStation VR 2 update is free if you own the game already, and it lets you play the entirety of the game, including substantial content updates that came over time, so mechs, living spaceships, and of course multiplayer. No Man's Sky is first and foremost a game that offers almost limitless exploration through space and on the surfaces of the colourful procedurally generated planets. There's a lot, and it's all much cooler in VR, obviously. Pistol Whip. Rhythm games are everywhere in VR, with the likes of Beat Saber, Thumper and Synth Riders leading a crowded pack. But probably my favourite of the bunch is Pistol Whip. In Pistol Whip, the vibrant, abstract stages are on a constant scroll with enemies appearing all along the way, accompanied by a lively, thumping music track. Having a sense for rhythm definitely helps, as everything unfolds to the beat of the music. But even if your guilty feet have got no rhythm, you can still have a good time playing through this, as it's also a bullet hell extravaganza, which is probably why I like it so much. Cover is not an option here, and you can't explore at your own pace, so you'll be dodging, weaving and sweating to survive the stages of Pistol Whip. Unlike most VR games, it also features quite generous aim assist and lets you fully pretend that you're at the centre of a John Woo gunfight. You feel way cooler than you actually are. Definitely way cooler than you look while you're playing it. Zenith: The Last City. This one is a real MMORPG made entirely for virtual reality. You venture into its world with a mix of running, free climbing just about anything, and extending your arms to glide around on your descent. So just getting around feels good, but you do it all while facing the various quests and dangers alongside other players. It's a seamless open world, so there's people roaming around doing their own thing, and you can group up to tackle dungeons and things together. But a seamless world does come with its own almost inevitable cons as well. Storytelling is mostly limited to quest text, and the world is filled with kind of static respawning patrols, things like that. Collect 10 quests are prevalent. But personally, I love the classic MMORPG style. Just talking about it here is making me really want to jump back in. You can play as a melee class, swinging your dual blades for damage and using the triggers to enhance your swipes into special attacks or to intercept and block incoming damage. It isn't physics driven, so you can't sweep the leg of your opponent or anything like that. But you can dodge and block and slash away, staying nice and mobile. It's fun and healthy. Or if you prefer, you can play with a combination of guns and magic, firing bursts or charge shot from your arms and mixing in gestures to pull down AoE spells or throw little magic blobs around. Either way, you can specialize towards tanking, damage or support, and further customize your skills, and of course get loads of gear, level up your characters and progress further out into the world. My biggest concern with Zenith is actually that it's too cheap. There's a risk that either content will dry up over time or developer ramen will follow some of the poor industry trends on monetization, but they haven't done that yet, so for now, I'm just going to play it while it's cool, and you should join me. The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners 1 and 2. Last on the list for this video is a big favourite of mine. It's the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners series. Yes, series. Saints and Sinners 2 Retribution releases in March, but Skydance are also enhancing the first game with a native PSVR 2 version as well. The first game is the one that I've put time into, and even if the sequel wasn't about to drop, the first game would still fly really high on my list of recommendations. It's good looking, deep, intense, visceral, and often chaotic. It really is much like myself, but as a game. It's set in the Walking Dead universe, so you'll obviously be facing off against the ever-present threat of zombies. You don't have to deal with any of the shit characters from the TV show, so don't worry about that. The zombies are pretty easily dealt with while you are suitably armed, and very satisfying to stab in the brain. But your weapons have limited durability, ammo is quite scarce, and there's just quite a lot of zombies really. There's a light narrative to follow through and various NPCs and side quests to mess with along the way. Everything gets more dangerous at night, and each passing day ramps up the overall danger level as well, so keeping yourself fed and breathing isn't enough. You have to press forwards, you have to stab those zombies in the brains, even if all you have on you is an old spoon. Saints and Sinners is really one of the best games available in VR in my opinion, which is still the correct opinion. And if you do get through it, you can actually carry over your progress to Saints and Sinners 2, which is promising to be more of the same, but presumably even better. And that's it. That is the list. It isn't every good game. It isn't even every interesting game. There are a lot of other things on PSVR 2 that I would like to try, but these are my recommendations, things that I'm comfortable and confident saying, it's a good game, go play it. You might have completely different ideas, you might have your own recommendations. Please do let me know in the comments. Maybe you are all over the Moss games or the Star Wars game, or I don't know, there's loads of stuff. There's over 30 games coming. So please do like the video, subscribe if you want more VR coverage from me, because there will be more coming, whether you like it or not. If you subscribe, you'll actually get to see it. Yeah, I'm a terrible YouTuber. Don't really know what to say. See you next time.